Hey y'all, I'm Destiny Payton. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm a mom. I'm a reality TV personality. I am a creative. I'm an actress and a singer and now an author. And I'm a woman of today, positioning myself for tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so much, Destiny.
Thank you for having me.
It's a long time coming. I know that I had probably hit you like season 1 asking would you be a part, and so we made it.
And I'm honored to be here.
Thank you. So like I've said, Women of TmrO really is a place where I wanted to highlight women who clearly are making moves to be prepared for the future, for longevity, for legacy, and all that kind of thing. So for you, we go way back, kind of.
Yeah.
Like we were living in Huntsville, Alabama at the same time, in high school the same time, and we weren't really friends, but we knew of each other.
Yes, popular girls.
Yeah.
From other worlds.
Exactly. And I was like, I didn't even know you went to Johnson.
Yes.
Okay, and I went to Sparkman.
Okay.
Why
did I think you went to Oakwood?
I went to Oakwood for freshman year.
Oh, okay.
And then I transferred to Sparkman sophomore year.
Okay.
So I was out there in the country. And
people don't understand Huntsville has the city and the county.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was very much so trailer park. Right? We weren't in trailer park, but it was like the country.
No, you were.
And I just found out yesterday because I didn't know that we dated the same guy.
We did.
The hell?
And the craziest part about it is people used to confuse us as the same person.
Yeah.
And I was visiting my cousin dated his cousin, so we were all around his family, and one of his cousins walked up to me and said, "Hey, Kayla," and I was like,
"Did you feel away?"
I did, because I was like, "Who the hell is Kayla?"
And had we met? Because
I knew who you were. I knew who you were, but I was like, I didn't put it together in a moment. Yeah. And then after his cousin was like, that ain't Kayla. And I was like, oh, okay. He's like, I'm so sorry. Y'all look alike, man. I thought that was, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's who he's with now.
And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay. So that all makes sense now. Cause I feel like it's so vague, my memories of like certain things back then, but I do remember a mutual friend, I won't say her name, but she was always like this antagonizing friend. Like, oh,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. So I think I always had like this anxiety, like hanging around her, and then just like all the other girls in the school, the pretty girls, just like, is it a competition? I think that's kind of one of the places where it kind of started, where it's like I think she kind of provoked me to be
more of a mean girl.
Yeah.
I know her, and her and I actually are cool. We've always been cool. I never got that from her, but I've seen it.
Okay.
So I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I just didn't know how to, and that might not have been what she was trying to do, but that's how I interpreted it, and that's how I kind of like moved forward, because I'm like, who is Destiny? Whatever. We don't look alike. No.
Yes. I don't look like her.
That kind of thing. It was, but yeah, that's childish.
It's very much so.
We not
and
like that.
Like for me, just like even with knowing that backstory, and like even seeing you in Atlanta, like I remember seeing you. You were modeling for Bessie Johnson. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
It was at the Crown Plaza. That's now the W.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's Kayla from Huntsville, and I was like so happy to see you. But it was kind of like a high, and I was like, oh, okay. But then I realized when you did your previous podcast, you were talking about how you were kind of being in a room, you dimmed your light.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. And so you kind of shied into yourself more so than just being
like the
who you
outspoken
are.
Or whatever.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, that makes sense as to why that moment happened. And you probably don't even remember that.
Later.
Yeah, but I didn't hold any. I didn't think anything of it. That's why I was like, when I had my first event in Madani, I was like, let me reach out to Kayla.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you saw that clip when I did talk about like how I just started to like draw back. Have you experienced that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have.
What was that like for you? Like, what were those moments?
I felt like in order to and this is the first time I think I've ever felt this in being on the show. I felt like in order to allow somebody else to shine, that I would bring my light down. And because I'm always comfortable letting people shine in their own light. I've never been uncomfortable, but the energy that I felt was that person couldn't handle it. Yeah. And that's just my reality. And so I did. And I didn't even realize I was doing it until after the fact. But it was like, okay, I never want to be like, oh, look at me, you know, while that person is having their moment, because that's just not me. Yeah. But I realized that I had to dim myself in order to do that. And now that I'm like, and then I was dealing with so much on top of that, like just my personal life, going through my divorce, you know, having being a new mom, you know, having a new business, trying to, you know, build that brand, and
it's a lot.
COVID, all of this stuff is happening all in 1 year. So, and then I'm dealing with being on television and, you know, publicly living parts of my life. Yeah. So
even speaking on that, like, there's so much to get into. And I want to start with really just because you're someone like myself. You have been a creative like most of your life. You were just telling me that you went to performing arts
college in LA.
College in LA, and you have been a creative, an entrepreneur that has just continued to pivot and just explore all of your gifts, any and everything that you wanted to do. And so through that whole process, and you now, what would you say is like your sweet spot of where you want to be or where you feel you're most confident or accomplished?
I'm like the Renaissance creator. Okay. So it's like I dibble and dabble in so many different areas, but my passion has always been music. Okay. But I fell in love with acting like probably 7 years ago, a little over 7 years ago. And
it's like hand in hand, right?
Yes,
like
it is. But it's more energy for me in music because it's really pouring yourself out. Being a creative and bringing a character to life is it's a gift that God has given me, and I'm grateful for. I want to explore it more and let people see more of it, because being on a reality show, I don't feel like you need to make a character. You are the character. Yeah. So when you are given a script, you have to bring somebody to life. I love that. Like, I really, really love that. And I've gotten back into music and, you know, bringing words to life on, you know, from paper to, you know, the vibe in the studio. Yeah. It's something that I love as well. So I don't know, like, it's hard for me to say I have a sweet spot, because I'm like, oh, but then I like to create products too. And then I like to, I want to paint. And, you know, it's like all over. I'm really one of those.
Yeah. I am too. And, you know, I had someone tell me, it was a few years ago when I was talking to him about my brand, and he's like a well-known like artist. And he said something that, and I kind of respect it, because I'm like, okay, you're successful, right? And he was just like, oh, you just do so much. You need to stick to one thing.
Oh, yes, I know that. That's my Achilles.
But you know what? I feel like some people have to stick to one thing. And there's other people that have so many talents, so many gifts, and they have the curiosity and the ambition to go after it. And then along that, we find our way. We find out what we like the most. We find out what's going to, you know, pay the bills versus what's going to, you know, fill our soul.
Correct.
And it's like, I'm like, fuck that. I'm like, let's just do it.
I get it. I get what he's saying, because I've had that said to me from successful people as well. And I understand it's finding the balance. So find that one thing that you can put the energy into that does pay the bills, and or is feeding your soul. And it could be the same thing.
Yeah, it could be.
But sometimes when you are creative, it's not the same thing. It's different things, but I get honing into one thing, letting that build, and then stepping off into something else. Yeah. Which is difficult, because it's like, ooh, I'm acting right now. And then you're like, oh, you want to do a song? Let's go do a song. Oh, wait, you want to do what? Okay, let's do this podcast. Yeah. So, yeah, it's finding a balance.
It is. And I think over time, you do kind of see where your strengths are. You see where you have more resources, more community, and then you can just, like, dig into that more.
So I agree, but I have a problem because I am a businesswoman. Yeah. You know, contrary to popular belief in some forms.
What's the form?
You know, some of them haters from
the haters.
You know, from
okay.
from the,
they're always there.
From the fan clubs. But it's hard sometimes as a creative. It's like I have all these ideas, and I'm also like the person that wants to, if I see the holes are not being executed, like I really, it's hard because you want to create, you want to be able to be in a space to be able to create and have people to help execute.
Yes.
So the part that I have, because I do everything on my own. I don't have a team. And so I'm like, if I had a team, Lord, this would just be so different.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I got this idea. Okay, so I'm doing this podcast now. And it's called Unbreakable because I've been through so much, and here I am still standing. I'm unbreakable. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I need to find a location. I need to find this. I need to find, figure out the interviews. I need to do this. I got to get the cars ready. I got it all, and I'm like, so what do I want to talk about? And then the creative part comes in, and it's like you're trying to execute while you're still trying to be creative, which is very difficult.
It's so challenging.
And I wear both hats, so it's like, how do you find the balance in that?
I know, because I will say that I've had a few businesses before TmrO, and those experiences told me that I'm not doing nothing else without a partner. I mean, I've tried to have partners before and it didn't work. So finding a partner, a good partner, is not easy at all.
Yes.
And sometimes you get to the point where you're like, I'm just going to do it myself. But for me, I realized that there was areas that I would just they weren't strong for me. Like I'm a visionary person, and so I have these ideas to solve problems. But I knew the areas of actual execution, certain areas I wasn't going to be able to manage, and so.
And that's good, because a lot of times, especially in entrepreneurship, people don't realize that it's, one, not easy, and then two, you have to know your weaknesses and your strengths.
Yeah.
And it's trial and error. So a lot of people got a chance to see me build a business brick and mortar style on television.
On TV.
So they got a chance to see the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows. And then people think, oh, maybe she doesn't really know what she's doing in business, or maybe she does, or whatever the case may be. But when you're going through creating a brand, it's ups and downs. So one of the things I said, if nothing else, the gift that I gave to people that want to be an entrepreneur and an entrepreneur in entrepreneurship is that you got to see the raw. You got to see the real, when you're trying to balance outside life and feed a brand and feed a baby and go through a divorce and all the things that I experienced. It's not for the faint of heart. So I can just imagine. I'm happy to be in the space that I'm in now, to be able to just create with a lot of that stuff. Some of it's still going on, but my mindset is different. My mind is not focused on the what ifs or how and why me and all that. It's on hey, let's get it.
Yeah. So let's back up a little bit. Music, acting, and then reality. How did you get on the show?
So, long story short, being myself in a room with people that were paying attention.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were it was in Huntsville, like you were at an event?
Actually, it was in Birmingham.
Okay.
I was coming from Atlanta to meet my ex-husband, and Martell from Huntsville.
Yes.
And his ex-wife. They were having like a magazine reveal. They were on the cover of a magazine. So we were invited, of course, and we showed up, and I had been to, I think that might have been my first event that I went to where the cameras were there.
Okay.
And I walked in, I forgot my purse, I walked out, came back in, my ex-husband was talking to the two of them, and I walked up, and all of a sudden the cameras just went swoosh, and I'm like, and they put the boom mic under, I'm like, okay, I guess we're filming. And so we were just catching up, regular conversation that we would normally have, and then afterwards, one of the producers walked up and was like, who are you? I'm like, Destiny. And he was like, well, why don't we see more of you? Where y'all at? I said, well, I live in Atlanta, but I wasn't living in Huntsville.
Okay.
But he's like, y'all need, and then my ex-husband walked up and he was like, oh, y'all married? Because I had my engagement ring on. I said, not yet. And he was like, oh, well, y'all need to come around more. And I'm like, all right, cool. And we go to dinner that night after the event at Papado's in Birmingham.
Okay.
And so it's us and another couple, and then the lady shows up, and I don't know who she is, but I'm having my wine, and I'm,
Is it a producer for the show?
Yes.
Okay.
No clue. I'm drinking my wine, talking smack, and doing what I do. And her and I just vibed. And then afterwards, it was kind of like, hey, that was such and such from the show. I mean, one of the CEOs of Kingdom Reign.
Okay.
And they want to see more of you. And so interesting because I had paid for a consultation with Carlos King when he had started out with his first, company.
Yeah.
And I wanted him to film my wedding at West Point.
Oh, wow.
And so we had the call with him after the fact, and he was like, well, our company really doesn't do that. And I'm like, oh, well. He's like, we're really looking for like show ideas. And I said, oh, okay, well, maybe you'll find a show. If you film us, you'll find some characters.
Yeah.
And he was like, but I know you. I've heard about you. And he was like, yeah, my COO told me about you. And
Okay.
I'm like, oh, okay. And we want to see y'all. He's like, you'll be getting a call soon. And so that's kind of how it happened. And then we got a call to come to and do a scene.
So that's how it started. It just starts with like the one scene, and then they build a character or a story.
Well, I guess it started with the one scene, and a lot of people don't know. I kind of wasn't really vocal in that scene because I had just had a miscarriage 2 days prior, and so I drove in from Nashville, still sick, hemorrhaging, all that, and I just didn't have the energy. But I didn't want to say I'm not gonna do it,
Yeah.
And so they kind of thought I was like, okay, she don't have no energy. She's kind of like blah. And then
why did you say that you did not? Why did you still do it, knowing how?
Because that's just the hustler in me. It's
Okay.
like I got to keep on pushing. Like,
Yeah.
I can't sit at home and cry about this. Like, it's already done. So
Yeah. You you'd rather keep it moving versus sit still.
Correct.
Okay.
Which is one of the reasons why I got sat down when I ended up having my son, because I think I was pushing myself too hard in a lot of the other pregnancies that I had, because I had 5 miscarriages.
Yeah.
And so pushing myself hard, stress for my relationship, stress for my career, because I was in the corporate world at that time. And so after that, it was kind of like, oh, wait a minute, okay, she does have some fire, she a little fiery. Okay, that might have been an isolated moment. Yeah.
That's interesting. So so you coming from, performing arts and all that, did reality TV feel like a stepping stone in the direction that you wanted to go? How did you envision it? Like, how did you interpret the opportunity?
So in that moment, I was creating my brand. So it was like, okay, this show is about Black entrepreneurs and successful African American people and couples. So my focus was more so on my brand.
Madani.
Correct, Madani, which is named after my dad and my grandmother. And so I really didn't look at it. I was like, this is reality TV. So for me, acting and reality TV are two different worlds. Different. And so I came in really 100% being myself, really 100% giving what I was dealing with in the moment. And then when the divorce happened, or when I got served, I want to say we were on a hiatus from the show. We weren't filming. And then when we came back, him and I had reconciled. So I didn't talk about it because it wasn't being followed, because it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, and then it was like, this is not working. But do I want to say this on the show? Because I don't really know where this is going.
Yeah.
And then I had a brand new baby. And then I was dealing with other stuff that I was like terrified to even speak about. And yeah, it was just a lot.
Yeah. So initially you were like, this is a good fit because this is about couples. I'm in a relationship. I'm a Black entrepreneur. You were looking at it just like as just for you felt like it was just a good fit.
I did.
How was the show on your like mental and emotional health?
I would say this, in the beginning, it was fine. It was fun. I was just, really being able to be myself. But when I started having the experiences that I was having with my divorce and just being in court, and I had never experienced things like that in my life, it created so much anxiety, being served left and right.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was wild. And then, to be on a show and then to kind of started to be painted in an aggressive light. Now, I am assertive. I will give you that 1,000%. And if you touch me the wrong way, I'm going to let you know. And if so that's just who I am. But my natural, normal personality, I'm laid back, I'm chill, I don't really bother anybody.
Yeah.
I'm actually really an introverted extrovert.
Okay.
People don't believe that because I'm so extroverted when I'm around people, but I really am. Like, I can sit at home all day and not do anything. But it started to affect my mental when I was dealing with all of that and I wasn't able to speak about it because legally I signed an agreement with my ex-husband to not speak about it or speak about him per se.
Yeah.
And then to be dealing with the fallout of a friendship at the same time that wasn't even a real thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it played on my mental because I'm a real person, and I'm like, this, what the hell is this? You know?
Was it a production thing where
I wouldn't say it was a production thing. I would say that it was a cast producing a situation to benefit their storyline. That's my belief. And people can say whatever the hell they want to say about it, but that's what I believe because, you know, it wasn't really necessary.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm trying to catch up with what that is. And in the midst of it all, when I saw, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what we doing. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to feed it. I'm not going to feed it.
So when did you realize? After you saw some episodes or just like kind of reflecting?
I knew it could have been a possibility because I'm always a proactive thinker. I'm like, okay, they're going to come back and try to make this situation a storyline. And, the other person was like, no, they wouldn't dare do that. I'm like, it might happen. And it did. And when it did, and then it was spent in a way like, oh, where you're a liar and you're this. And I'm like, that's one thing I ain't never been. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say I don't lie because that's not even a reality of any human being.
Right.
But I've never been known to be a liar. I'm always the truth teller. So it just was like, this what we doing? Like, really? And so... And then the part that I think bothered me the most was that person really knew what I was dealing with behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. So it's like, but then I had to get over that. I had to get over a lot of things at the same time. And then my dad got sick. It was just a lot. It's been a lot. It's been the last 3 years of my life and the first 3 years of my son's life. He's been my saving grace. Mm. So, it played on my mental because I was trying to heal from the divorce, trying to heal from the things that happened with my son, trying to heal from so much. And then that the fun person you saw on the show got shifted into another light that wasn't accurate for me. Mm-hmm. And so I was guarded. So when you see me on the last season, I didn't even like watching myself because I'm like, I'm so guarded.
You didn't feel like it represented?
Not even close. Not even close. It was minuscule to who I really am. You're just a certain part of me. And you saw moments where I was like ready to go to throw bows. Like that was real. But the part that I think, and it's partially my fault too, but also the story being told as to why I was in that space.
Okay, yeah.
Nobody knew that.
Yeah.
So it's like, why is she acting out? Why is she angry? Why she's upset with this lady? And it's like, because I sat back and I kind of let the whole storyline grow because I felt like I'm come from, the old world where it's like, if you don't feed it, it doesn't grow. Just like what happens in this household, you don't talk about.
Yeah.
And that was wrong.
Because it just grew and grew
and the story changed and legs grew everywhere.
Did you have somebody on your side during this process? Like,
everybody.
Okay, so
but then you have the fans that are coming at you that may be a team somebody or team this, and they're like, yeah, you're this, you're that, you're this, you're that, and it's constant bullying. Like even to this day, I had a blogger that just did a whole blog about stop bullying Destiny Payton.
Wow.
And it's like I'm not even bothering anybody. I'm minding my business, but it's still comments. People come up under and make comments to me, and it's just like. Hey.
What was there a particular comment that? Because I know oftentimes I see it with celebrities and things like that. It's like they can have a million positive comments, and then there's just that one or two negative comments that make it feel like nothing positive was said. Is there anything that was said that really just hit you, and you were like?
The biggest thing is the liar thing. That's the thing that kind of used to really, really rub me the wrong way. But then I realized one day I was blocking people. Because I'm gonna have a block party. I block people all the time. I used to block people all the time. I'm having a block party today. And I had on my gym clothes. I was getting ready to go work out. I was sitting there for 30 minutes blocking people. Just from comments. 30 minutes.
From your page?
From my page. And I was just like, you know what? Hell no. I'm not. This is wasting my time. This is my time. And so I just wrote back on the post they kept coming on. And I was like, you know what? I've been sitting here for, I think I might have said the time frame, and I need to have my ass in the gym. And you know what? Y'all enjoy this content. I will no longer be blocking anybody. So I don't block people anymore. Just watch it. Say what you got to say. I don't really, at this point, I don't really care, because if you're committed to misunderstanding me or not liking me, that's going to be the case regardless of what I say or do.
Right.
So I had to come to that realization. And I used to go to bowls with people in the comments, like, let's go, I'm windmilling, we fighting.
Yes.
But then I realized, for real.
But no, some people, you do get to a point where you're like, somebody need to tell you something. Somebody needs to really tell you.
I still have those moments, but I've learned to be more graceful. But before it was just like, who you talking to? You on my page. But now it's like, whatever. But I realized too that I had a tribe, and I had support, and I had love, and my energy focused on that. And that's where my healing began, when dealing with those type of comments. And it's just gotten more and more and more and more. Like, it's funny how you focus on something and it grows.
Yeah.
So the love has grown.
That's amazing.
The support has grown, the comments, the inboxes, I see you, like, you inspire us to know that you've been going through what you've been going through, or a glimpse, because they don't really know the whole full story. But just enough to say, you're still pushing, you're still going.
Yeah.
So I look at those now, and they inspire me.
And I did see that you did an interview recently. I don't know how recent it was, but it's on the top of your page, where you kind of
with OWN?
Yeah.
That was I want to say that was last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And have you had a chance to fully tell your story?
No.
And so you're gonna do that at some point.
I am.
Okay, you're just gonna wait for the dust to settle. And the
dust is settling, but I feel like one of the things I never wanted to do, even when I didn't speak about my divorces, I didn't want to speak in a place of anger, resentment, or I didn't want it to not have some healing aspects to it for someone else.
Yeah.
And so for me, in my bitterness, it wasn't time to speak. In my brokenness, it wasn't time to speak.
Yeah.
I can still move through my pain, because the pain is not completely gone, but my pain has purpose now. And that means something to me.
Yeah. So, and I when we talk about healing, one thing that I recently saw, it's pretty simple, but you cannot heal in the place where the pain is still active, where that whatever is creating that pain is still there. So it must have been crazy, just because, like you were saying, while you were still filming, you were starting to try to heal. And I can imagine that just being almost impossible when you're still having to interact with people that don't have your best interests in mind, or people that are not with you on your healing.
So yeah, the scene where I said, hey, I'm divorced. And I said the sun shine brighter, because I literally, I could see my life being a movie, because I literally walked in with my car seat to sign my divorce papers, and my son was sitting on the floor in his car seat as I'm signing my divorce papers. And I'm holding him as I'm walking out of the building, and I'm getting emotional, just a little bit. Yeah. And I heard birds chirping, and the sun that was out when we walked in, I saw it. Yeah. But I didn't see it when I walked in. And so I knew that was a good release, and I was saying, the sun shine brighter, the birds chirp louder. And I was on a healing journey, and then I got hit with, this whole bad friend thing, or whatever the hell the narrative was. And it's like, what? Yeah. And then I'm still getting hit with stuff from my ex-husband, motions being filed, trying to modify custody, all these things that are going on. I have a brand new child. And in the midst of that, my son, I think I shared with you, he was in a hospital for almost a week fighting for his life, and he was only 2 months old. That's the parent's worst nightmare. You have a small baby. You never want to know they stop breathing.
Yeah. That's scary.
Very much so. So I'm trying to keep myself going day to day and deal with him, healing, or what happened. I still truly don't know what happened. They diagnosed it as a near-miss SIDS episode, and there is no such thing. He is a walking miracle. Outside of, him being here after all my miscarriages, he's a walking miracle. Yeah. And it's just, I was dealing with that. And then soon after, the divorce happened, and then it's just been a lot.
It's just been one thing
after another. And then my business being open and closed. People don't know that my landlord wouldn't fix the heat. My landlord would fix the AC. The building was condemned at a certain
And you never were able to say, look, this is the stuff that's going on. It's not me. It's not my lack of expertise, ability.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm not making excuses because there's things that I could have done better. But I also didn't have me, and I also was dealing with. I'm postpartum. Like I shouldn't have been signing any divorce papers at, 2 months postpartum, 3 months postpartum,
Hell no.
or making those type of decisions because I just now feel like myself again. And I didn't understand women saying, oh, you get yourself back and your body gets back in the line after 2 years or more and then you get your mind. I'm like, whatever. I was still pushing and I really didn't feel like myself. I really didn't.
But you never stopped. You just kept going.
I don't know how to. And what I realized is that when the enemy realizes they can't stop you, they distract you. So all that stuff that I was just explaining to you became a distraction, and I was moving slow. I was, sitting in my house and like fighting to not become depressed. My son is everything to me, and I also had to find the balance of loving him, but also finding me because I was looking for myself. I was like, "Where's that hot girl that was in the, how we do, having a good time, living that life."
Yeah, that
and
destiny.
I realized. You're searching for a woman that doesn't even exist. That girl doesn't exist anymore. You've been through so much. Yeah. Who are you looking for?
Yeah.
She ain't here no more.
Like, what is the new you?
Absolutely. And I'm stepping into that and still remembering the bad chick that I've always been.
Yeah.
And bringing that into this level of womanhood as a mom and balancing that out. Because sometimes people feel like they have to shrink into motherhood and they lose their sexy.
Yeah.
No.
And people will try to tell you what you're supposed to be doing as a mother, how you're supposed to dress, where you're supposed to be. They're asking about where your kids, whenever you out having fun, they're like, where your kids? It's like, it's crazy.
It is. And so I had a friend and she just had a daughter and we kind of messaged back and forth. And I was like, listen, if you ask me, because she'll ask me certain things, I'm going to give you advice, but I never want to make you feel like I have the answers because every mom I had to figure it out.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
And so I said what I learned to do is block out the unsolicited advice, but if it's something that tweaked my interest, I'll be like, oh, okay, wait. All right, maybe I'll use that.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be natural. People feel like, hey, I get comments from people that I don't know. You know what you need to do? You need to focus on. I'm like, I don't even know you. I don't even know your life. So, how you telling me what I need to be doing? But, some things have good intentions. Some people have good intentions, but,
That's something I've learned to do is take, you don't have to block everything out, but take what makes sense.
What resonates with you and, use it. But the other stuff like, hey, listen. I posted something today from a guy that he posts a lot of motivational stuff, but he was like, stop sending things to your friends or loved ones that are pushing them back into spaces that they're trying to heal from. So, you might get a message where, oh, look, this is the man you're going to have to raise a kid with for the next 18 years. Ha, ha, ha. It's a meme. But that's real to me.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to see that.
Yes.
So don't send me that.
No, I'm like that. I am absolutely like that. Like, and I guess it's a gift. It's a gift and a curse, but I'm so committed to my growth that I often find myself saying, I can't even be around you if you're not uplifting, where I'm going. And sometimes, I've had the feedback of like, oh, well, everyone's not, you don't have to, not be someone's friend because they're not exactly like you. And it's just like, no, that's not the point. The point is right here in this time, if I don't focus hard, like crazy, I could miss so much. Yeah. And I've had too many years of where I wasn't focused enough, and I'm just not allowing that to happen anymore.
Listen, I'm in that same space. And because I am I love people, but I am an introverted, extrovert person, I demand that.
Yeah.
So if I feel like, and you don't have to understand.
Right. But what you're not going to do.
You're not going to discredit. You're not going to distract. You're not going to destroy. It's none of that. You're not going to do any of that. And if I feel like that's a part of what you're doing, then we can't rock.
Yeah.
I have to love you from a distance because I owe that to myself.
Yes.
I owe that to my son. And for me, like you said, it was times where you were distracted or you may not have been able to give 100 and you're in a season of giving 100.
Yep.
And for me, it's like I missed so much time in the last 3 years, even though I was still going. But I know me. I know the level of performance that I have in me.
Yeah.
And I missed a lot of that because I was dealing with so much. And I also appreciate people that would smack me and say, stop focusing on that stuff. Like, you know, you have a lot going on. Like my therapist said, you should have lost your mind. Like you literally, for you to still have your right mind is nothing but God. Yeah. And I say that all the time. Like my hashtag is but God, because people are like, how did you deal with that? How did you come? I'm like, if I tried to conceptualize what I was going through, I probably will lose it. Yeah. But that was nothing but God covering me through that process and making me stronger for this next phase and level in my life. And also giving me the gift to be able to share and help somebody else heal.
That's so important because there's so much false narratives around people's success, people's recovery, their healing. It's like such a trend.
It's a popcorn thing. It's like, no, they didn't get there overnight.
No, I need the details. Like, stop making it seem
like how
you went
what
to
was
yoga.
The snot cry like? Because I know you had a couple snot cries. Like, what was that really like?
What was that thing about? Because even for me, for self-worth, it's like, you know, someone who didn't have a bunch of struggles, but so sometimes you assume like, oh yeah, I have self-worth. I had to really sit there and say, you have some behavior that does not say, I love you, Kayla. Like, you don't have to be insecure to admit that there are some things that you're doing that aren't showing yourself the highest amount of like respect and love. And I had to admit, okay, so you do have some self-worth issues, not because you don't think that you're worth it, but you haven't fully understood the magnitude of your worth. So you're allowing things to happen that it's below your worth.
So listen, you're speaking to me because when I was thinking about self-worth, like things that I allowed to happen in my marriage and in my relationship, is not me. But it was me because I allowed it. So I, in therapy, had to figure out why did I allow a lot of those things to happen? What space was I in that allowed me to stay and allowed me to continue to deal with the behaviors that I was dealing with? And then I realized that I have a savior complex. So I was so busy trying to save and trying to like love through and trying to fix and heal. I was losing me. Yeah. Like that strong-willed woman, I succumbed to things because I was trying to fix. And it's like you're pouring into something and it's really just seeping through holes. You're pouring into a grater.
Yeah.
And you don't realize in a moment because you're like, I have a big heart and I realize that. And that's why I can switch so quick. So it's like, I can be like this and I can go to 1,000 and you're like, whoa. But it's because my heart is big and I'm open. And then when you do something, it's just like, hey. Yeah. But so in that situation, I was losing a lot of myself because I was just pouring into it. And then I realized, like, why? Like, why do I do that? Like, why do I have that complex to want to save? Why do I have that complex to want to fix? Because I naturally do with people. I have conversations, and I love conversations with women. I love to feed and fuel anything that I've experienced or anything that I can possibly see that could help. I love to give. Yeah. And so in my relationship, I was doing the same thing. And after the fact, the things that I experienced, I'm like, how the hell did I allow myself to go through that? Yeah. Like, I'm a bad chick. Like, I'm a boss. Like, all the things that you know about yourself. And it's like, but I allowed this.
Yeah. You have to really, like, self-assess. Like, wait a minute, but that actual behavior does not align
with who I know God has made me to be.
Yeah.
But it also, I have fought God so much on finding my purpose in that. And that's why I went through. It was finding a lot of my purpose and being able to like turn that, like I said, into things that are healing for other people. Yeah. And so that is something that I definitely realized about myself is like forgiving myself. Allowing myself to forgive myself for allowing these things to happen. Yeah. Allowing myself to go along with things that I knew didn't align with who I was and where I wanted to go. And a lot of that was also seeing potential. And I always tell people potential in relationships is dangerous, especially when you get to a certain age, okay? Yeah. It's dangerous for you to see potential in someone and what I realize is because they may never see it and they may never want it. Yes. Or they may be stuck in their own curses, generational curses, or own things that they can't get out of, but you see greatness in this person. And so that was what my relationship was like. I saw greatness in my ex-husband. and I wanted it to work. I wanted to see him be great.
Yeah.
And I sacrificed me in the process. And I didn't.
Because you were just giving, and you weren't getting poured into. You were pouring.
Correct. In the moment, I didn't know that, because it was like, oh, okay, we have these moments, and you're always searching for it. It's almost like a drug. You're searching for that high that you had when it was good. And then you might have a glimpse of it, and you're like, okay, it's there.
Yeah.
And then it gets bad again, and you're like, oh. And that's why people don't know. People are like, oh, she got married for the show. I was engaged for 2.5 years, almost 3 years. And finally it was like, okay, I see consistency. I see the work being done. I see we're going to therapy. We're doing all these things. It's time. But I realized certain people know how to work enough.
Manipulative.
Yeah.
Manipulative.
Yeah.
I definitely feel like it's a womanly natured thing to nurture, to see potential, to help things grow. I mean, that's where our bodies were.
Yeah, but you do that for your children, not your man.
Exactly. And I think that's where it kind of gets twisted.
Yes.
Because at what point, as we're going from girls to women, does anyone define what that nurturing quality is geared towards? Because we have been told or showed that be there for your man, hold him down, lift him up, and all that kind of thing. And even for me, I learned, and this was all in my 8-year-old mind, when my parents got divorced. I was 8 years old, and I went to go see my dad every weekend. And as an 8-year-old, I could tell that my dad was sad.
But see, kids are more intuitive. That's why I always say, like, you have to fix it, because kids feel.
Because
that's all they do is feel.
It took me 20 years later to realize that I take the responsibility to make people feel emotionally safe and secure. I take that responsibility on, and then in that, I'm neglecting myself. But where that started was the 8-year-old Kayla that wanted to make sure her dad was okay. And if you don't take the time to sit down, or if you don't have anything that directs you to that place of uncovering why you are, then you just continue that cycle.
Well, I'll tell you this, because I'm a big proponent for therapy and life coaching. And I've had a life coach for a long time. I have a new one now. But I did more therapy when I was married and in a relationship than I did singular.
Okay.
Because I was like, we need therapy. We need to fix this. And so we went from, and this is so crazy. This is the thing of like knowing your worth. We went through like 5 or 6 therapists. And I'm like, okay, we just need to find somebody else that knows how to deal with this situation. And I would find somebody else. Okay, no, they don't really understand him. Like, oh, they don't really understand the dynamics. Like, we need to find somebody else.
Yeah.
And then I realized what happens in therapy is a lot of people that don't want to heal, when it gets hard, they run. And so
that's what was happening?
Every time. When it got real, when it got focused on what healing needed to be done within that person, it's run. Or it's blow up. Like, we have blow ups at therapy.
Yeah.
Like unsafe ones.
Damn.
And then I realized after, I'm no longer in a relationship and I'm dealing with my own therapy, my life coach / therapist was like, you need to go to trauma therapy. You've experienced a lot of trauma in a short period of time. And it was triggering things that I had thought that I healed from as a childhood trauma. So I thought I had healed from those things. And what I realized is I tend to disconnect from reality in order to cope. So I went to...
What does that look like? What is the disconnect like?
It's crazy. So I'm doing this therapy called EMDR, and it's a trauma-based therapy. So I had to go back to my earliest childhood memory. And as I was going through all of my childhood memories, I had to stop at 10 because I was like, Jesus, I've been through a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, this is, hey. And it was things that I had forgotten, things that I had blocked out. And so I ended up having to go to court with my ex-husband. And I walked into the courtroom and I was like, is this the same? I've been there plenty of times.
Yeah.
And, we have the same judge. And I was like, is this the same place? And I even asked I was like, is this the same place? And he was like, yeah, whatever. And I'm like, this doesn't even look like the same place. And the judge comes out, and I'm like, I thought her hair was like, I didn't even recognize the space that I was in. So I had therapy like the next day. And I was telling her, she said, your coping mechanism is that you detach from reality. So I was literally just floating through all of these experiences, and I wasn't really even there.
Wow.
At all. And now that I'm healed some, I can see it.
You can see it.
Yeah, and it's just like, it was crazy to me, like, wow, like these spaces don't even look the same.
That is crazy. But that's like a breakthrough, right? Like that's like a small breakthrough. Yeah, and I was going to say that so therapy, you're starting to heal. I saw a clip of Lauren London, and everyone's always asking her, like, how are you
that's a strong lady.
How are you managing this loss? How did you go back to work, back to acting? And what she said was that her children and herself, her children specifically, deserve to have a happy mom. They deserve to have music playing in the house. And she was like, and I deserve to be happy, and he would want for me to be happy. And even though that was like a loss of life, I often hear people refer to divorce as like a loss.
Yeah,
like
definitely
you grieve that situation.
And you don't realize it because for me, I was in the thought process of, I signed these papers, I'm free, it's over, it's done. Like, wow, I can breathe. And then it still keeps going because you have a child, so you have to communicate. And we have he's a newborn.
Yeah.
And so,
what do you do? Do you do things daily to get yourself in a certain position to be the happy mommy, to be happy Destiny, to actually, bring that joy to your life? Like, what is, I mean, clearly the therapy is one tool, but is there something that you do to like jumpstart your day?
To jumpstart my day, absolutely. So I always wake up, for whatever reason, at 4:30, and I looked that up, and it was your time with God. It's really your time to manifest, your time with God, because my body just would wake up. Because when my son, like say he's staying the night with his dad, I'm up all night, because as a creative mind, that's what I do. But as a mom, I'm in the bed because I had to put him to bed. So the world shuts down. But no matter what, I wake up at 4:30 or 4 o'clock, somewhere in that time frame. And I realized that was my quiet time with God before the world starts. And then I go back to sleep. But now, my therapist had been, my life coach had been like, you need to journal. And I realized that I had stopped, because I love journaling. Like, I'm a journal junkie. I had stopped journaling because I didn't want to face the reality. So I wasn't writing a lot of stuff down. And, then my current EMDR therapist was like, you need to journal. I'm like, my life coach said it, now you said it, so I guess I gotta go. And so I went, and I went to Dollar Tree, because I'm like, I'm going to Dollar Tree and get me a little journal or whatever. I left out of there with like 6 journals. So I'm like, ooh, this one says this. Oh, I like this one. And I can't stop writing.
Okay.
It's amazing. Pouring out of me now.
Yeah.
It's pouring out of me now. And I was like, okay, I needed that. So journaling again. I love to read. I really, really love to read. But I don't know if it's just this day and age with social media.
Yeah.
I cannot focus my brain enough to read like I used to. And I'm like, God, please give it back to me.
Audiobooks.
I love audiobooks. I used to listen to audiobooks, but it's something about sitting there, opening a book, and like flipping the pages.
Yeah.
But I listen to an audiobook when I drove down here. So I do those as well, but it's just different. It sits different when you're reading and you're like, oh, I'm gonna write a little note.
That's true.
I'm gonna highlight this one. Okay. This is different. It's studying.
Yeah.
And so
it really is.
I just want that gift back. I need the gift of reading back. Reading. So I might read a few pages. I've been forcing myself to like read a page or two when I have time, and quieting my mind.
Yeah.
That's a process.
Is dating a part of your life now?
What happened? What?
I'm wondering, is dating a part, or like are you dating? Are you over it for right now?
I'm not over it. I have been dating. There's someone that I knew from the past that came back into my life and was like, I'm not letting you go this time. But it's also a process because, once the honeymoon phase is over, it's like, what we doing?
Yeah.
We know we love each other. We know that this is something that we want to invest in, but do we really want to do the work? Because it's work.
It is work, absolutely.
It's a full-time.
It's a full-time thing.
And a part-time job.
Yeah. There's this list that a couple of therapists have that they say everyone should go through this with their potential partner before they get married. And it's like probably like 75 questions of like, what do you actually agree on? Like, how will we handle this problem? What do we think about this? What do we think about this? And seeing how much you're actually aligned with your morals, your values, and
that's
the
important
future.
Because I feel silly sometimes dealing with my situation, because it's like we don't even it's not even aligned at all.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, you're current.
Correct. It's like I breastfed my child for over 2 years.
Yeah.
And then
congratulations.
Thank you. And then you give him whole milk when he's with you.
Oh. Yeah. No. Fuck no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like those type of things.
Yeah.
And it's like, we know that breast milk is the best thing for him. We know that if he is a breastfed baby, he shouldn't be going to whole milk. We know that those things are best for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is just small. It's small, but it's big.
Yeah. And those are the things I think people are afraid to tackle, because you get in this thing, you're like, oh, in love, or.
But it's conversations that we had. So it's like, it's almost spiteful at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just.
And spiteful.
Yeah. And it's like, for me, and I saw an interview recently, it's like co-parenting is easy when the child is the focus. When it's not focused on being in control, being in power, or I'm making the decisions, or any of that stuff. When it's focused on, okay, what's best for him?
Yeah.
What's best for her? What's best for the children? Forget what we feel.
Yeah.
Like, what's best?
Yeah. That's one thing that my parents did. Like, I found out later that there was, some challenges in their relationship, but
What you found out later.
I found out later.
And that's how it should be.
That's how because one, it allowed me to not have like this biased view of either of them based on their experience with each other. And I can say, that's my dad, that's my mom, I love them. I love them for how they're treating me, and I didn't have
Which
to
is
factor
why I didn't
in.
want to talk about what I was dealing with in my divorce, because I didn't want my perception of his father to be dictated by his relationship with him.
Let him come to his own
conclusion
about who that is in his life.
Absolutely. And it's difficult because when you see certain things that it's like, But for me, what I also realized too is that my silence has been killing me, because I am a person that always lives in my truth. And even though I was living in my truth, I wasn't speaking, I wasn't letting it out. And I just watched Tabitha Brown say that she had experienced rape. And I had never seen her in that light. She's always happy, bubbly. Even though she was smiling and she was speaking about it, not happy, but, she wasn't in a bad space. But she said God compelled her to speak on it. And her husband didn't even know.
Oh, wow.
And she said, she had talked about it on a live. Like, God had compelled her to speak about it on a live. And she said, somebody, I think the person or someone that was in that time frame of her life had Facebook requested her, and when she saw it, it made her sick. Like, it literally, like, she got sick to the stomach. And she said, God was telling her that my secrets are killing me. And it's so funny when I was writing because I'm writing a book right now. And so this was way prior to this moment with Tabitha Brown, but I was saying, my silence is killing me. It's killing me. Yeah. And she's like, that's the name of your book. That's what your name of your book is going to be. And I said, I'm not sure. We're still picking out the name of the book, but we're writing it. We're in the writing process. But literally my silence it was killing me from the inside out, because it's like, speak your truth.
Absolutely. Speak
your truth. And I did that in a private setting. I was hired and spoke about in detail what happened in my marriage, in my relationship. And I was getting my makeup done. I could not stop crying. They were playing praise and worship songs in the background. And I was like, no, God, I don't want to. And it was like, this is a part of your purpose now.
Yes,
like, you
absolutely.
have to. And it was like, oh.
I'm going to try to find this guy that I listened to. But he so much talks about authenticity and intuition, and how we are stripped from that as children, even when it's like, don't do that, because as parents, we've already been conditioned to this world, and we've had fears and pains and all these things that
make us have those red flags and like caution signs.
And we don't even allow our children the space to just develop their own. We're telling them no or stop or don't do this because we want to prepare them for what's out here, but we're not allowing them to find who they are at this early age, is where everything is being, it's a serious time when they're developing who they are. And so I look at his work and I'm like, dang, it helped me to learn how to go back and find that childlike authenticity. And one of the things he talks about is, it was like a study of women who were married and in bad relationships. And the women that were in these bad relationships and didn't speak about it versus women who were in bad relationships and spoke about it, there was like a four times rate of chronic illness in the women that did not speak, that just held it all in. So when you say your silence kills you, it absolutely will. And the studies that he shows are about women who are in these roles of nurturing. Either they're nurturing their children, they are the peacemakers in the home, they are taking care of their husbands, and no one is listening to them. And there's so much more chronic illness, nervous system illnesses within women versus, men.
I believe that because for me, it's like that moment when God was like pushing me to speak, and I spoke about a lot of things that I had never talked about publicly. I felt free. And it's brought me to this space that I'm in now. Yeah. Just from speaking about it in a private room.
Yeah.
And, I had so many people reaching out to me, like, I didn't know that happened. Like, this is happening to me. Like, you helped me. I'm leaving this circumstance because you said it doesn't get better. And it's just like,
yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, God, I see you.
So you on to so many great things. I want to kind of like close by asking, what is next? You're writing a book.
I am.
You are developing a podcast.
I
am. Tell me a little bit more about that, and if there's anything else that you want to share.
So I'm writing a book, and it is, I really just I'm in a writing phase right now. So I've just been speaking about my journey from my first memory.
Okay.
I kind of played off of how therapy said, started your first memory, and I did that. Actually, I had the therapy session after my first writing session, and so I had to go back. I was like, listen, there's things that I completely had blocked out of my...
that need to be in here.
Yeah, and I didn't even know. And so that, I'm writing a book, and then my podcast is it's called Unbreakable, and it is a podcast that is centered towards all aspects and walks of life, for people that have been through, drama, trauma, hardships, divorce, and just showing that, you've made it past that and that you're unbreakable. Yeah. And so that's something that sits and really resonates with me because I've been through the fire. I've had the glass shattered in my face, but I'm unbreakable, Absolutely. And then I have a candle line that I have pre-launched, but I'm gonna be launching completely, and it is a candle, and I actually have it, but left it in the car. It is a candle, and it is when you open it, it looks broken, but when you put it together, it's back together. But it's homage to my brand, Madani Reignited. So I'm reigniting my brand, I'm reigniting my flame, and that candle represents that, being broken but putting the pieces back together.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I'm back in my acting bag.
Okay. Yes, and
are you
gonna be here more? Like, are you gonna be auditioning here? Like, what does that look like?
So we can always Zoom and like send in our audio. I mean, not audio,
so
but
you don't have to do it.
No, but Atlanta is a place that I've always called home. My family is from Michigan and Atlanta and Georgia. Okay. So I'm here like a lot, and I love Atlanta. So one foot in, one foot out.
Yeah, that's fire. That's fire. I'm so excited for you. Is there anything that people don't know about you that might be crazy, funny, or whatever that you...
A lot.
Is there anything that you feel like will be interesting for them to
know about
know as you move forward? Unbreakable.
It's a lot. I mean, I'm like an onion. It's a lot of layers. It is.
Okay, so we're gonna look forward to everything you have going on.
I don't smell like an onion, but it's a lot of layers.
Please don't smell like an onion.
No. Yeah, it's a lot of layers. So I think people probably would be surprised about what I have in store.
I'm excited for you. I'm really happy for you.
Thank you, and I'm proud of you, Miss TmrO.
Thank you. Okay, we have to. I always like to, when I have guests on here, I want to stay connected. I want to follow up with what you have coming, highlighted. Just like always an alumni, Women of TmrO alumni. So we want to keep highlighting your story and sharing because they're all special women that have been on here. Women who. We're ready for tomorrow, whatever.
Yes, and I still have all the goodies that you gave me at the first Madani luncheon.
Oh, nice.
And so I have like the mask. I don't have many masks left, but I have like the pop-ups for the back of the phone. Like I still have all that stuff.
I gotta get you some new stuff too. Okay, I got you. Well, thank you so much, love, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you guys next time.